My Weirder-est School, Book Number 9. Mrs. Barr has gone too far. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Chapter 5. International Day. Happy International Day, Mrs. Barr said when I came to class the next morning. She was wearing the mask I made. What's International Day? I asked. Each of you is going to choose a country, said Mrs. Barr. Any country in the world. You'll spend the morning learning about your country online. Then you'll give a short presentation to the class, as if you were the leader of that country. Doesn't that sound like fun? Yes, said all the girls. No, said all the boys. I think it's a great idea, said Mr. Cooper. The kids will learn a lot. Plus, they can practice their research and public speaking skills. It sounded like a horrible idea to me. Learning, research, public speaking? I thought I was gonna die. Andrea was so excited she could barely stay in her seat. My country is going to be... But Andrea didn't have the chance to finish her sentence. Shh, said Mrs. Barr. Don't tell us the name of your country until it's time for your presentation. Let's make it a surprise. I love surprises, said Andrea. Me too, said Emily. We walked 1,100,000 miles to the computer lab, where there was a computer set up for each of us. Mrs. Barr passed out pads and pencils so we could take notes about our country. Andrea got permission to use her smartphone because she has to be a big show-off all the time. What should we look up? Asked Ryan. Search for interesting facts about your country, said Mrs. Barr. Where is it located? What do the people wear? What do they eat? What language do they speak? Things like that. Everybody started looking stuff up. Well, everybody but me. I couldn't think of a country I wanted to learn about. Ryan was sitting next to me. I leaned over to see what country he chose. No peeking at other people's computers, said Mrs. Barr. We want it to be a surprise when you give your presentation. I was bored. I looked up a bunch of stuff about football. Did you know that a guy with only half a foot once kicked a 63-yard field goal? It's true. Go ahead, look it up if you don't believe me. Isn't this wonderful? Mrs. Barr said as we were all looking up stuff. Maybe someday all the nations of the world will work together like this, so people can live in peace and harmony. Everybody worked hard all the way to lunchtime. Well, everybody except me, but I learned a lot about football. After lunch, we went back to Mr. Cooper's class. Okay, who wants to give the first International Day presentation? Asked Mrs. Barr. I do, shouted Andrea, of course. Go ahead, Andrea. Andrea rushed up to the front of the room with her notes. She couldn't wait to show how smart she was. I am the Queen of Norway, Andrea said. My country is in Northern Europe. It's a little bigger than New Mexico. We are one of the largest seafood producers in the world. Why is everybody always talking about fish? More than 5 million people live in my country, Andrea continued. We speak Norwegian and we have 29 letters in our alphabet. Our capital city is Oslo. Our national animal is the moose and blah, 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 blah. What a snooze fest. They shouldn't call that country Norway. They should call it Borway. Andrea went on for 1,100,000 minutes. I wasn't really listening. I just wanted Andrea to keep talking until dismissal so I wouldn't have to give a presentation. And that's why we eat reindeer meatballs in Norway. Very good, Andrea, said Mr. Cooper. You certainly taught us a lot about Norway. Who wants to go next? We all stared at the floor. How about you, AJ? said Mr. Cooper. Oh no, not me. AJ, 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 everybody chanted. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. You did do research on the country, didn't you? Asked Mrs. Barr. Sure I did, I lied. I went up to the front of the room. Everybody was staring at me. It was the worst moment of my life. Don't you have any notes, AJ? Asked Mrs. Barr. No, I memorized everything. Impressive, said Mr. Cooper. Please begin, AJ. I am the president of Florgenstan, I said. It was the first thing I could think of. I've never heard of Florgenstan, said Mrs. Barr, and I've been all over the world. We are a brand new country, I explained. We just started last week. Go on, Mr. President, said Mr. Cooper. Florgenstan is a beautiful country, I said, with lots of trees and animals and, food. I made up a bunch of stuff about Florgenstan. I told everybody the national bird is the hummingbird. The national food is chicken tacos. They have a lot of kangaroos and yaks. I just said whatever popped into my mind. There are no nerds in Florgenstan, I said, looking at Andrea. And you know how skate parks usually close at sundown? Well, in Florgenstan, they stay open all night. Fascinating, said Mrs. Barr. Would you like to see the Florgenstan National Dance? I asked. Yeah, everybody shouted. I made up a totally dumb dance, jumping around and waving my arms in the air. Everybody was nodding their heads. It looked like they were actually buying it. Well, everybody except Andrea. Are we allowed to ask questions? She said. Certainly, said Mrs. Barr. That's how we learn. Where is Florgenstan located, Mr. President? Andrea asked. Then she smiled the smile she smiles when she knows somebody doesn't know something. Florgenstan, I said, is a small island off the coast of Maratuga. I made that up too. Oh yeah? Asked Andrea. And what language do you speak in Florgenstan? It's a very beautiful language, I told her. We speak Florgenstanian. Uh-huh, said Andrea. Is there a Florgenstan national anthem? Yeah. Would you be able to sing the Florgenstan national anthem for us? Asked Mrs. Barr. Oh, gee, I don't know, I said. Come on, Arlo, said Andrea. Sing the Florgenstan national anthem for us. Sing it, sing it, sing it, everybody chanted. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. So I sang the first thing that came into my mind. Oh, give me a home where the kangaroos roam, and the yak and the hummingbirds play, where seldom is heard from a dweeb or a nerd, and the skate parks stay open all day. Home, home on Florgenstan. That sounds a lot like home on the range, said Mr. Cooper. Yeah, I told him. Florgenstan is such a new country, we haven't had time to write our national anthem yet. Andrea looked like she was about to explode. "There's no country called Flurgeonstan," she yelled. "I just looked it up on my smartphone. Arlo is making all this stuff up." "I am not," I yelled. "R2, R2D2. We went on like that for a while. "Oh yeah?" I finally said. "Well, as the president of Flurgenstan, I declare war on Norway." "As the Queen of Norway," Andrea said, "I declare war on Flurgenstan." "I'm on Norway's side," shouted Emily. "I'm on Flurgenstan's side," shouted Alexia. And that's how World War III began.